It's inspiring, you know, innovation. Now, we have had a great morning looking at the outside world, and now we want to change the channel and we want to look at the inside world. We have been looking at our external reality, we've been looking at the planet, we have been looking at all the things that are going on in technology for this whole conference. Now we want to take a moment and go inside, and this is something that we do really well at Dreamforce, and we have two incredible speakers. How many people here have ever read the Huffington Post? Raise your hand. All right, isn't that great? Yeah, change journalism. How many people have seen Arianna Huffington on television? Raise your hand. A complete and incredible pundit who's able to say exactly what is on her mind all the time. She's written 14 books, and the most recent book, of course, Thrive, is all about how to go within and how to survive and succeed and thrive in this incredible world that we are living in right now. And so I was absolutely delighted that we were able to get her, and then we are going to hear from one of the great speakers and writers. How many people have read one of Eckhart Tolle's books already? Yeah. Isn't that exciting? He's here as well. And, well, before we jump into an incredible conversation, first of all, let's please welcome to the Dreamforce stage Arianna Huffington. Arianna.
Thank you.
Welcome, Arianna.
Thank you, Mark.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for this amazing conference. Really, congratulations for bringing in $68 million in grants, $680,000 in volunteer hours. Can we all reimagine a world where every company is actually integrating giving and service into their DNA so that we can have results like that all around the world? Thank you. And for me, it's wonderful to be here this session with Neil Young, with Al Gore, with Eckhart Tolle. You know, the four of us have not been together since Woodstock. We've had our solo careers since then, but it's great to see the band coming together. And for those of you who have not heard me before, this accent is for real. I say that because it's been the bane of my existence. I try to change it. But I was born in Greece. There is nothing I can do about it. And I didn't relax about my accent until I met Henry Kissinger, who said to me, stop worrying about your accent. In American public life, you can never overestimate the advantages of complete and total incomprehensibility. So this conference has had the most amazing focus on doing well by doing good and giving back. So now I want to build on that by talking not just about doing well, but being well. Because we've all been living under this collective delusion that we are built like Salesforce One cloud platform with 99.9% uptime. And we are not. Let me break it to you. God was not as good as Mark Benioff. In fact, he took one full day off. Do you remember? After 6 days of making heaven and earth, he took a day off. There is something very profound about the Shabbat tradition, even though most of us here may not be Jewish. But the bottom line is that we all need downtime. We all need time to unplug, recharge, and as Mark said earlier, ground ourselves in our own reality. Not just survive and succeed and thrive, because if we don't, we will ultimately crash. And do you know how I know that? I know because it happened to me. 7 years ago, I crashed from burnout, sleep deprivation, exhaustion, hit my head on my way down, broke my cheekbone, got 4 stitches on my right eye, and it started me on this journey of redefining what success is. And I came to realize that while Greek philosophers and Roman philosophers had asked the question, what is a good life? Our modern life has shrunken the definition of the good life down to success and has shrunken success down to two metrics, money and power. And this is like trying to sit on a two-legged stool. Sooner or later, you fall off. We need the third leg of the stool. And the third leg of the stool, the third metric, consists of these four pillars: giving, that you've already handled beautifully in this conference, well-being, wisdom, and wonder. Well-being is something which we've dismissed as kind of really, we don't need it, we can just take care of ourselves at the end of everything. But remember what I tell you on the aeroplane, put your own oxygen mask first. It's not because they're nice, it's because that's what makes us most effective. And for the first time now, we have this amazing science that proves that actually all the things that we've dismissed for so many years, like sleep, like meditation, like unplugging from our devices and recharging ourselves, are actually performance enhancement tools. Did you read a couple of days ago that now Phil Jackson is making mindfulness training mandatory for the Knicks? Did you read Kobe Bryant? He and I did a conversation together for the New York Times saying that now that he's grown up and become wiser, he recognizes the importance of sleep. These are athletes who, like everybody in this room, want to win. And they recognize that the way we have talked about sleep in our culture and the way we've seen meditation as something for people who want to chill out under a mango tree is not actually accurate. That these are performance enhancement tools. Have you noticed that we take better care of our smartphones than we take of ourselves? How many people here know precisely how much battery they have left on their phones? You get alerts. And if you get to about 17% of battery remaining, you get worried and you look for the recharging shrine, and they are everywhere. But when I collapsed, I must have been below 0% battery remaining. And yet, I wasn't even aware of it. And as I've been going around the world speaking about this, I see that burnout is truly the disease of civilization. And you know what? I was talking to Al Gore about that earlier. Burned out people are going to keep burning up the planet because they don't know any better. We need to ground ourselves in our own reality, and then we are going to recognize the objective reality that now we are ignoring. And we need to stop in our companies congratulating people for working 24/7. You know, I have 55 pages of scientific endnotes in Thrive, and they show incontrovertibly that working 24/7 is the cognitive equivalent of coming to work drunk. And I was in Munich earlier in the week having dinner with a professor, Ronenberg, who's done some of the most amazing research on sleep. And he said, we've shamed politicians into never appearing in public smoking, right? In fact, for decision-making, sleep deprivation is worse than smoking. So how about we shame politicians into no longer talking about how they work 24/7, shaming each other for taking vacations. Vacations are good. Hillary Clinton was amazing here this week. She actually herself collapsed from exhaustion. That's not the way to live, and that's not the way to govern. We don't allow truck drivers behind the wheel when they're sleep deprived, and when they do, we saw what happened with the Walmart case. Well, we should not allow politicians behind the wheel of a country when they're sleep deprived and disconnected from their own reality. And that takes us to the second pillar, wisdom. You know, Bill Clinton said famously, the most important mistakes I made when I was tired. He did not specify what mistakes, but We can all agree with that. I can say that the most important mistakes I made, hiring mistakes, missing the red flags, were when I was tired, burnt out, and exhausted. And it's important to recognize that we all have in us, as Archimedes, my Greek compatriot, said, a place from which we can move the world. He said, give me a place to stand and I can move the world. We all have in us that place of wisdom, strength, peace. It's as close to us as our next breath. And I must say, I loved watching Tony Robbins, getting you all dancing and shaking, but I would like to do something different. Ever since I was a little girl, I always dreamt of sitting on a cloud. So I'm going to take 1 minute and sit on this cloud. You sit on your chairs, don't worry, and take us all into a 1-minute meditation where we can connect to that place that we all have in us. So, all you need to do is put down your devices, no multitasking, uncross your legs, please, drop your shoulders, close your eyes, and just focus on your breath. Just breathe in peace, stillness, compassion, and let the thoughts come. Let them come and go. We are more than our thoughts. And breathe out any fears, any concerns, anything that's troubling you, because we are more than all our fears and concerns. And breathe in again, peace and stillness. And breathe out anything that's troubling you. And connect to that place, listen to the baby crying, and return to the breath. Watch your thoughts without any judgment, and return to the breath. And remember that in the course of your day, this is available to you at any moment of stress. You can focus on your breath and know that this place of stillness and peace, this center, is available to us at any moment, under any circumstances. We just need to take 1 moment. And now take 1 last breath in and 1 long exhale out, and return to the room. Thank you. So this probably took less than a minute, and it's available to us at any moment. I actually recommend 12 steps, specific steps we can take to return to that place from which we can thrive and not just survive and succeed. And one of these steps is taking 5 minutes a day to do what we did now. Now, everybody has 5 minutes, right? Can we all agree on that? I try to do it first thing in the morning, before I go to my smartphone. It can wait. And incidentally, my second step, because I know there are a lot of A-type personalities here, don't try and do all 12 steps at once. You know, one by one, pick the one that most resonates with you. A second step is, at the end of a day, pick a time when you turn off all your devices and gently escort them out of your bedroom. Because this is your recharging time. Mark is kind of looking at me. I don't know, maybe he's sleeping with his smartphone by his bed. But I was talking to Tim Cook recently, the CEO of Apple, and he says absolutely not. He never sleeps with his smartphone by his bed, his iPhone by his bed. The reason is the science shows very clearly that's the time for us to reconnect with the deeper part of ourselves. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, you are going to be tempted to look at your data, right? Admit it. And if you look at your data, your sleep is not going to be as recharging when you go back to it as if you actually keep your devices away. They will still be there. And in the morning, when you wake up, don't go first to your phone. Another step that's been very important for me is start by getting 30 minutes more sleep now than you were getting yesterday. I'm now up to 8 hours, 90% of the time, but start gradually. All that it may mean is if you are tempted to binge watch House of Cards, you can have a sleep sponsor, and you can call them and they can talk you down. Do whatever it takes to reconnect with that place of wisdom and peace in us. And what is interesting is that this is the place from which we create. Eckhart Tolle, with whom I'm so looking forward to speaking soon, has said that it's from this place of inner stillness that every great artist has created, but also every great entrepreneur. Steve Jobs, famously talked about his time of meditation as the time from which he came up with his most innovative ideas, because he said, I could hear subtler things. And 2013 was a tipping point here when CEOs came out not as being gay, but as being meditators, including the Salesforce CEO, Mark Benioff, who told us that he's been meditating for 25 years. And Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater, who told us he's been meditating for 45 years and considers the foundation of his success. And Mark Bertolini of Aetna, and it goes on and on and on. So this is now the time when we see that if we are going to really win the future, we need to anticipate it. And you cannot anticipate the future from just being transactional and clearing your inbox. The people who will win the future are the people who can sit quietly in a room while we are clearing our inboxes, which is a little bit like bailing water out of a leaking boat. It's a thankless exercise, right? In fact, more and more companies are seeing the connection between the well-being of their employees, especially when it comes to how creative and how productive they are, and their own bottom line. Not just in the States, but all around the world. I was just in Germany, as I mentioned. Volkswagen has just instituted a policy where they give managers company phones that are automatically turned off at 6 p.m. and turned on at 7 a.m. Daimler has a great policy of holiday email. You can actually choose to have a message that goes out that says, Jane is on vacation. She will not see this email. If you want action, contact so-and-so. If you want to reach Jane, email her again at such and such a time. We basically need to do whatever it takes to get away from this collective delusion that burnout is what success is, both at the individual and the corporate level. At the Huffington Post, we have 2 nap rooms. Now they're perpetually full, although I must say the other day I went by one and I saw 2 people coming out of it, and I thought to myself, whatever it takes to recharge you, just don't tell HR. So this is true of inventions and breakthroughs throughout history. Newton famously came up with the law of gravity while under sort of a reverie in the afternoon having tea and watching the apple come down. Archimedes came up with the theory of displacement of water in the bathtub and then ran out shouting, Eureka, Eureka, naked in the streets of Syracuse. If it had happened now, of course, the breakthrough would have been overtaken by Instagram and tweets about how he had been naked, and probably he would have been in rehab and had to tell us that we should not interfere with his rehab process. But the point is that throughout history, we have these examples. So, the fourth pillar, having dealt with giving, because you all dealt with giving here as a shortcut to happiness, well-being, wisdom, and the fourth pillar is wonder. Neil Young talked about the beauty of the universe, the beauty around us, and how often we miss it. How often we miss it because we are multitasking. Do you know modern science says very clearly to us that multitasking does not exist. It's actually task switching, and it's the most stressful thing we can do. I was recently walking near my apartment in New York, and I saw this beautiful building with this great ornamentation. And I said to a friend, "This building is amazing. When did it go up?" And she said, 1890. And I thought to myself, how much else am I missing? We all are having a harder and harder time being with ourselves, being silent. It's almost like the snake in the digital Garden of Eden. The snake is our hyperconnectivity. So Harvard and the University of Virginia did an experiment now where they gave people a choice of being alone in a room without anything, without any devices, no paper, nothing, no phones, or getting electric shock. And 67% of men chose electric shock. I'm very happy to say that only 25% of women chose electric shock. So how do we discover, once again, that sense of wonder that we had as children that helps us see the world anew? Because that's the place from which we can truly create. You know, we can all obsess with increasing market share, or we can actually create new markets. You know, if you think of it, that's what Mark did. He was increasing market share in his previous job, and then he created an entirely new market when he launched Salesforce. This is really what all breakthroughs are about. But they require that sense of wonder, that sense of mystery and surprise, and the understanding that we don't know most things yet, that they're ahead of us for us to discover. And that's an incredible journey to be on, rather than simply worrying about incremental improvements or quarterly earnings. How about looking at what's ahead over years and decades, and even what's going to define the next era? It's such an incredible way to live, and it means that when bad things happen, as they always happen in our lives, we can much more quickly and effectively return to the center. We can be much more resilient. Because everything I'm saying is true wherever you are in your life, whether you are struggling to put food on the table or at the top of the world juggling multiple demands on your time. When we learn to reconnect with our center, we can deal with anything that life brings us. We even have extraordinary stories like Viktor Frankl's from concentration camps, when people, even under those most horrific circumstances, could find that place in themselves. What is exciting about this moment in history is that for the first time, we have scientific findings validating ancient wisdom. Mark said yesterday that 90% of data have been made available in the last 2 years. But how much of our collective wisdom has been made available in the last 2 years? And that's really what we need now. We need to combine the new technologies with this amazing number of data with ancient wisdom that we all carry within us. Otherwise, we will keep ignoring the warning signs. And didn't you have the same sense that I think I had listening to Al Gore? Which is, how can we possibly be ignoring these warning signs? It reminded me of a couple of years ago when I was in Pompeii, where Vesuvius erupted in AD 79. And I thought to myself, how could they ignore the warning signs? They had so many warning signs. They had birds that had stopped singing. The dogs were running away. There was white smoke coming out of Vesuvius for years. And they ignored them, and they were buried under 60 feet of lava. It's incredible to see that city. And yet, when you watch Al Gore's slideshow, you feel really the same sense of responsibility of how can we reconnect with our own wisdom so that we can actually demand the same wisdom from our politicians, from all the leaders who are making decisions, because we have the power to change things. The power is available to us right now. We just need to connect with it and exercise it. And we need to do it also for the sake of our children and grandchildren. I have 2 millennial daughters. Their generation is the most stressed. Many of them don't even know how to be with each other because they've spent all their lives with devices. And technology is amazing, but it has to be our slave, not our master. And it does become addictive. We all know that. So, reimagining our relationship with technology, reimagining our relationship with ourselves, reimagining our relationship with our life is really the key right now. And what is great is that we can all share experiences. That is really the incredible beauty of a platform. And what I love more than anything about the Huffington Post is not that we're a journalistic enterprise that has won a Pulitzer, etc., but that we're a platform that you can all use to share your own stories of burnout, your wake-up calls, how you are reimagining your life after Dreamforce 2014. In fact, I want to invite you all to do that. And I'm going to make it super easy for you to bypass the growing Huffington Post bureaucracy by giving you my email address. So you can email me, Arianna, 1 R and 2 N's, at huffingtonpost.com, and share your stories. And we'd love to post them on the Huffington Post and translate them, because we learn from each other. Why should you have your own painful wake-up call like I did? Why can't you learn from mine? It's much less painful. So let me wrap it all up before we bring Eckhart up by saying that this is an extraordinary moment to be alive. It's a moment when we really can get away from the collective delusion that in order to succeed, we have to burn out, and reimagine ourselves as healthier, happier, wiser, less stress, less constantly frantic, basically as being able to both go onward and upward, but also go inward. And to also reimagine ourselves not just as go-getters, but as go-givers. You know, Mark said that philanthropy has been the best drug he has taken. Now, let me assure you, that's not what he was saying at Woodstock. But nevertheless, giving is truly the only drug that you can ever OD on, and that has the only possible side effect of a blissful buzz of knowing that you've made a difference in your life and in the life of others. So, Dreamforce, go-givers, let's all together take that next step of reimagining our lives, manifesting a thriving existence, and let's all admonish and exhort each other to not just go onward and upward, but inward. Thank you so much.
Please thank Arianna Huffington. for that standing ovation. Arianna. Arianna, before we bring up Eckhart, I just want to ask you one question, which is, when you look back at the last decade or so and you've gone through this huge transformation, what was the one thing that you did that really gave you this kind of catalyst to learn all this and kind of transform your life, and now you have this incredible message? Where did all of this come from?
Well, what is very interesting is that I had a mother who taught me to meditate at 13. I was always interested in spiritual teachings. I went to India and studied. But nevertheless, our culture is so completely obsessed with constantly burning out, climbing, and ignoring our inner reality that it wasn't until my own wake-up call of collapsing from exhaustion that I really started implementing a lot of the knowledge I had. And that's why I think what is important now is to take small microscopic steps, because then we have our own experience. So it's not just words or even scientific findings, but how we see it changing us.
Well, it was an amazing presentation. I was sitting next to Neil Young, and he's reconsidering whether it's better to burn out or to fade away. So.
Oh, but before we bring Eckhart, I want to ask you a question. What was it for you? What was the moment for you where you decided it's not enough to just be super successful, but I also want to connect with myself?
Well, for me, the most important thing is to be happy. And what I found is that if I want to be happy, then I can only do that by connecting with myself, by giving to other people, and enjoying my life. And so it's quite selfish, actually, because really, if I'm not doing these things, I become quite miserable. And for me, the most important thing is that sense of I want happiness in my life. You know, we had this incredible individual come who recently did a meditation program with a number of CEOs. And he came in, and then afterwards, after he left, he went back, and I was watching a video that he did, and he was talking about the meditation program that he did with the CEOs, and he goes, yeah, I had all these CEOs come in, and they're all like, well, you know, we're learning to be mindful, we are learning to meditate because, you know, we want to be number one. He goes, but what is the most important thing here? Is it that you want to be number one, or do you want to be happy? And you need to choose. What is that choice? And so I said, I'll choose happiness. And I think that actually makes you a lot more successful. You actually get everything that you want if you choose the right thing at the top, and everything will kind of come from that, and that's what I've found. So thank you for being here and helping to express that.
Thank you so much.